Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored, and I'm very excited today to be joined by Juliet Warner, the Florida-based lifestyle content creator, entrepreneur, mother of four, who shares her story so openly. And you speak so candidly about relapse, shame, being sober for over 10 years, relapsing, and going through all of this whilst holding together what's seemingly a perfect family.
My story is a gnarly one. I grew up in a great family, great parents, great sisters. No one has addiction. And right from the jump, I was a blackout drinker and just a garbage can, pretty much, of substances. And I thought I was kind of normal back then because everybody was doing it, but then everybody else stopped and I just got worse and worse and worse. I ended up becoming an IV heroin addict. And I stayed in that addiction from probably age 19 to I'd say 27.
Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored, and I'm very excited today to be joined by Juliet Warner, the Florida-based lifestyle content creator, entrepreneur, mother of four, who shares her story so openly. Now, let me first, I don't even know how I found you. Like, you have an amazing story. And you speak so candidly about relapse, shame, being sober for over 10 years, relapsing, and going through all of this whilst holding together what's seemingly a perfect family. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And I was laughing about how you found me too. I was very flattered, I'll say that.
Yes, I don't know how I found you or why. You were on my For You page and kept popping up all the time. But what was really interesting is exactly that. I think, addiction and sobriety and all of these things, it has a connotation of being, people that are sort of deadbeat, don't have jobs, don't have families, can't hold themselves together, all of these things. And I think, when you look at your life and your page and everything, first of all, you're beautiful. You have a beautiful home, you have beautiful children, and, you're on the school run. And, it's really interesting to see how you still talk about there are daily struggles with life, friends, husband, children, all of these things, but you hold your shit together.
I try. It's ugly sometimes, but I manage.
So take us back because obviously how did you how do you manage to get yourself out of such a dark space and create this incredible life that you have? I don't know your story from all the way back, whether you were married for all of these years. Tell people a little bit about yourself and your story because it's
Yeah.
a good one.
And I'm just going to let it rip because I've got to be honest as possible to help as many people as possible. That's really my theory behind it all.
Well, I think that's your purpose.
It is. It is. And it's given me so much purpose beyond being a mom, which is a shitload of purpose in itself. But this has just added to that, So my story is a gnarly one. I grew up in a great family, great parents, great sisters. No one has addiction. And right from the jump, I was a blackout drinker and just a garbage can, pretty much, of substances. And I thought I was kind of normal back then because everybody was doing it, but then everybody else stopped and I just got worse and worse and worse. I ended up becoming an IV heroin addict.
Oh, wow.
And I suffered mightily. It was dark. And I stayed in that addiction from probably age 19 to I'd say 27. And the reason I'm so unapologetic on my social media about my relationship with God and how important it is to me is because God literally saved my life,
But when you see heroin addicts, they don't look like you. How have you maintained, like you see people that have lost their teeth, their hair, or how are you looking like this?
Well, I always say it didn't look like this back then.
Right.
Like I was young, so I would bounce back. I would go to rehab and, my skin would clear up and I never lost any teeth. And I didn't go down so far where those types of physical consequences started adding up, but it was bad enough in the short little spurts when addiction really got messy, where I, would have scabs all over my face. I hadn't brushed my hair. I had like a dreadlock, like one, just the whole thing, so I didn't look like this. So I'm lucky that I was always able to bounce back pretty quickly, but also I was young. If I was doing that stuff now, ooh,
And did your parents have money? Like, who kept funding you going back in and out of rehab? Because that's no joke either.
yeah, my parents, they're not, in the top 1%, but they are definitely comfortable. My parents were both professionals. They both had great jobs. My mom was an executive for IBM and my dad Morgan Stanley. So,
Yeah,
we were very comfortable, but they were enablers. So they spent a lot more than they probably had to.
right. And, like the rest of your family, do they resent you for all of this, or did they want to help you? Because I imagine that a lot of the attention went to you.
Yeah, I have two younger sisters. And during that time, at first they really resented me. They thought I was just an asshole, because back then there wasn't all this talk about addiction as a disease and whatnot. We've all learned a lot since then in the last 2 decades. So my sisters at first, they were not fond of me. They thought I was just intentionally ruining our family. And as time went on and my disease progressed, I think they had more compassion because anybody that would look at that, play that movie, would say there's no way anybody does that to themselves intentionally, right? So as time went on, they kind of got behind the fact that it was a disease. They also got educated through the various rehabs that I had gone to. And they became a little bit softer. Now my mom was always soft. I'm her firstborn kid. She's never turned her back on me, even when she probably should have, when it was unhealthy.
And so, getting to 27, you decide to become sober. What was the catalyst for that? Did you hit rock bottom, or, what made you go, this is the time? And at what age did you meet your husband? Because a man walking into this mess, I don't even know, most people that are their lives together can't find a good man, you know.
I know. The best thing I ever did was marry him, hands down. And I'm very lucky that I had met him years prior. I had gotten out of rehab and they shipped me to Florida, where I live now, to go into like a sober living. And at that point, he had been shipped to Florida and he was in a sober living. He ended up staying sober. I didn't. So we were friends, but I had no idea that he even thought I was attractive. Like we were just friends. And I had just gone in and out and bounced around. I moved out of Florida, back to Florida, out of Florida, back to Florida. And when I finally moved back, which was 2012, I Facebook messaged him and I said, "Hey, I'm back in Florida." He was really the only person I knew that was doing the right thing at that time. So I reached out to him and he was like, "Oh my gosh, great. Let's catch up. Let's have dinner." We had had dinner many times before. And I met him for dinner and, the rest is history. He was sober a long time at that point. I think he had 6 or 7 years. He now has 18.
So he didn't, like, did he want to take you under his wing? Like, he didn't see the downside or the mess and he just saw through it. Like, what was it that sort of, because most people would say two addicts living in a house together is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, I think there is one thing that is important to clarify and highlight is that when you enter a recovered state, which is totally different than being in active addiction or in
Yeah.
early recovery where you're still a mess, you just don't have your coping mechanisms anymore. But you do the work and then you enter this state of being where you are free and you are your best self. And that's when he met me. I had done the work. I was sober a little bit. I think I had maybe a year and a half of sobriety when we went on that first, not when he met me, but when we went on that first dinner when I had reached out.
So
So
how did he cope when you had you how many relapses did you have in the marriage?
two,
Two.
well, one in the marriage, one right before the wedding. So he's very understanding because he himself, who now has 18 years of continuous sobriety, has been to 10 plus rehabs.
Right.
So he sees it from a different angle, you know. He lived it.
So, when you do have these things, and like I'd love you to describe like just the shame and the feeling, like when we've all woken up and gone, shit, I shouldn't have done that last night, right? But obviously yours is on a grander scale.
Mhm.
Like how do you get over that with the person you love next to you? Like,
It's hard. We did a lot of therapy, but we've both come to a place with our through our programs. We both are members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that step work. I don't know how much you know about it, but a big portion of this step work is what we call the maintenance steps.
mm-hmm,
So there are every day these various things that we do every day to keep ourselves really current on our mental health. And when you're doing that, the number one thing is that you always are looking at yourself. So when you have two people in a relationship that are committed to always looking at themselves, it really makes it a lot easier because it's always, what can I do better? Where did I go wrong here? And when you're both doing that, there's no need to point the finger and blame so much. Does that make sense?
yes. But what about the
Yeah.
people? It's less say even about you. It's about all the people around you as well, like friends. Because people, especially I know, just being in my, well, I'm nearly 50 now, but when I was in my mid 30s as well, people are very judgmental. They get to this stage of like, holier than thou. Like I have
Mm,
my perfect especially in America. They want their, 2.4 children, their white picket fence, and you don't
right.
fit into that model, right? I mean,
Mm,
you do, but you don't.
yeah.
And so, how does that affect you as a family? Because I found, obviously it's not the same, but just dating and marrying a guy that was 19 years younger, I lost a lot of friends through that. So,
Hmm.
like watching what you've been through and going up and down, like how did it affect all your relationships? Your parents are obviously your parents. They have to love you and they're there, and family's
Hmm.
family. But, friendships and the friendships that you've built, but the one when if you do have an episode or relapse, like are they still there for you? Are the friendships change? Like, do people back off and just say, I don't want you hanging out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that all of those things happened one way or another. I definitely lost friends. And it's interesting because some of the people that turn their back are people that are actually sober themselves. So that always surprises me a little bit. But
Well,
the people,
maybe because you falling triggers them.
I don't think so because these are people that have, been sober a long time. So, who knows what it is? You never know what's going on with people, but I lost friends. I also have some friends that have been my friends from day one that will probably always be my friends. And then there's people that kind of step back and then slowly but surely gave me their trust again, you know? So it happened all different ways.
I mean,
And as
just
far as sorry,
go ahead.
no, as far as the shame in the community or the perceived shame that I guess I feel or felt, I don't feel it anymore at all. That stuff is hard to deal with because I live in a small town, but a big town.
Hmm.
But everybody knows each other. So it was public and there were a lot of people whispering and a lot of people who knows what they were saying about me. And that's hard to contend with when you're also simultaneously trying to turn your life around, you know?
What was the sort of lowest point or the catalyst? Was there one incident where when you relapsed, like it was very public?
Yeah, the whole thing was really public. I don't talk about this on my social media
Oh, okay.
much, but I'm going to keep it very general. But
Hmm.
during the time that I was drinking and sort of leading up to that time, my husband and I actually separated
Oh, wow.
for, yeah, we were separated for like 6 months.
Yeah.
We both started dating other people. Um, and it was just, it's a traumatic thing for a relationship to go through.
Hmm.
And to add alcoholism on top of that, it was just a double whammy for my nervous system. So I think your question was what was like the hardest time? There was, I mean, my last drunk episode was a big explosion, and I'm happy to tell that story if you want me to. But I think coming off of that and getting sober again, there was what I like to call a slow burn back to feeling okay. You
Tell
know, my
this.
nervous system
Tell
was
the
so
story
out.
with pleasure.
Yeah, so I was on a trip in the Bahamas with a friend and their kids and my kids, and he was at the time dating another girl, and I had just found out, so I started flipping out, saying, "I'm breaking up with this guy. Like, I want to get back together." And so we were planning on getting back together, and I had this one trip planned, and I took my kids to the Bahamas, and I felt so just in Alcoholics Anonymous, we call it restless, irritable, and discontent.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great way to describe it. That's how I was feeling, just god awful. And I drank, and I didn't plan on blacking out, but I was drinking really heavily. And at some point, I did black out. I had a nanny with me, thank God. And my husband had spoken to her before the trip and said, call me right away if anything goes sideways. And my husband called her when she realized I was drunk. And I blacked out, passed out in the hotel room. And my husband had to come and rescue us from the Bahamas because we were there basically, the nanny was an 18-year-old and he was scared shitless. So it really, yeah, it really came to a head in that moment. We flew back home. And the next like 4 or 5 days, I did not get out of bed. I was so depressed. I was mortified. I just couldn't believe that I had worked so hard on myself over that period of sobriety, and I had changed so much as a person. I mean, entirely, and I had just burned it all to the ground. It's like I lit a match to all of it. That's how I felt.
So there's a lot
So
of self-loathing in that.
yeah, for those 5 days, oh yeah. And then I was like, all right, I got to get some help. And not even because I wouldn't be able to stop drinking, more because of my mental health at that point. I was like, I got to get help because I don't know if I can do this.
And so, like, your husband stepped back in, which is amazing too. And
Mhm.
since then, it's been,
Yep, I went to rehab after those 5 days laying in bed, and I got out of rehab, and we started living together again, and we just really focused on being friends and building a solid friendship first. And it's just grown from there, and we're both so committed to it. And it's actually a miraculous story, and it just shows that when two people are willing to do the work and rely on God to direct them, anything is possible.
so from this, like, and all these lessons that you've learned, I mean, now you're helping so many other people with your story and showing them it can be done. And actually, you have a very, your parenting style is hilarious. You don't really hide anything from your children.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So, like, how old are your children now?
They're 9, 8, 6, and 5.
Okay. So it is a different, I like to treat my children like mini adults, but
Yeah, me
like,
too.
I really see that you do too. Do you think that it's because why did you choose to expose them to it in that way? Tell them about it or show them because other people would, or because you want to tell them how not to do it and how to avoid it, or
No, I think for me, it's about my mom and dad didn't share anything with me,
Mine
nothing.
too. Yeah.
I think it was a generational thing. I don't know, but it didn't help me in the long run when I was navigating my own challenges. It didn't help me. A, because I didn't feel comfortable coming to them with that stuff because they, acted like they had never done any of that. And B, like we didn't grow up sharing any vulnerability. It wasn't part of our family culture. So I knew that I wanted to do that differently. And I think for me, the biggest thing is probably that my kids will always know that anything they do, they can come to me because mommy ain't no saint. You know what I mean?
No, and I 100%, and I've always had that feeling too. Like I tell my kids, I'd much rather they told me than didn't. And, obviously they're teenagers, so they're going to have questions and do things. And I'm very, very open. But, again, it's a hard pill for a child to understand what you're going through. How do they how did you make them understand that you have this illness in a way?
So my husband actually owns a treatment center. He's an entrepreneur, but one of his biggest passions is helping young guys get sober. So he owns a treatment center. It's a big part of our lives. So my kids have
Right.
grown up way before my relapse, really with the language of AA and recovery in our home.
Right.
They've been to AA meetings, they go up to the treatment center, they know that's what their daddy does. So it's not something that was just introduced because of the relapse. We actually don't talk much about the actual relapse. Like they remember and we'll laugh about it, thank God now. My oldest will be like, "Mommy, don't do that again, please." But beyond that, we're not really focusing on that. We do focus a lot on the recovery side of it.
That's amazing. And so, I actually do feel that my kids, because we're so open and I do sort of say, you can bring me anything, they do bring me everything. And also, I feel like that they're not as inquisitive or, desperate to try things as maybe other children are.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting way because there's a line where some parents absolutely disagree with it, think it's an
Yeah. Oh,
adult topic conversation, and other people think it should be shared. I'm in the gray space where I do think we should share everything. I don't know whether really young children can take it on board or not, but you also they're in a house and they're living with it. So, at the same time, I suppose it's better than hiding things. I don't believe in hiding things from children either.
yeah, me either. Me
Um,
either.
so, and I think sharing things and helping them to understand as life goes on, it's, a very modern way and a very cool way of living, which is what I
Yeah.
hope I'm instilling in my kids too. I mean, how do you balance being a mom and being so ambitious now? Like, have you always had this ambition? Like, what is it that you want to achieve now? Because I feel like I watch your stories and you have all this passion, but is it for helping people, or is it for the fashion, or what is it that you want to build now, and what is driving you?
Yeah, that's a good question too. You have a lot of good questions. So I would say that first of all, I am not good at balancing it. I'm really learning as I go here.
I was going to say, sorry, I was going to say, is the addiction coming through this way? Like, I feel like you go all in for everything.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I just said that last night to my husband. I
Ah,
am all or nothing.
yeah.
I'm totally all or nothing. But, that's part of my personality. It's part of my makeup. So I've learned to sort of work with that. But I just bought myself like the little brick thing. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's this thing you tap your phone to it and it like locks you out of everything.
No.
Yes. Because I have to put guardrails in place, regardless if it's over substances or work or even parenting. Like I'm crazy with that too. I'll be like, kids, get in the car. Let's go to Disney World for the weekend.
Right.
Like, we'll skip school on Friday. Like, I'm like, I just try and be like an amazing mom, and be a really good time. So yeah, the guardrails for me are really important. I think that this little app that I got is going to help me a lot because there needs to be work hours, you know? Can't be checking that stuff all the time. And it can become addicting. I mean, it's exciting. It's the first time in a long time I've done anything for myself, you know.
I was about to
I
say, what do you do for yourself? Like, what? Because I see you running around like a lunatic, picking up the children, and there's four of them. So I imagine that's incredibly busy. Do you do the cooking? You do all of the rest for your family? Like, what? When do you take time for you? What is time for you?
Yeah. No, I definitely take a lot of time for me, but just to finish our last conversation,
Yeah.
I was a stay-at-home mom that whole time. So in the professional realm, this is brand new, you know? And I think it's really good. And I think it's a more well-rounded life. But okay, so um I don't do the cooking. I have a nanny, which we needed like three nannies at one time because my kids are so close in age that none of them could put a shoe on, none of them could wipe their own ass, like none of it, you know? So now we still have her. We only have one, not three, but we still have her and she's amazing, but her job is sort of morphed a little bit. So she cooks for us, which is such a heavy lift and takes so much off of my plate. So I can actually be present with my kids and help them with homework after school and do the things I would actually rather be doing. Right. Um, and I have time to myself, less now that I'm working, but I love to exercise. Like I play a lot of sports. I'm super into like the wellness stuff. I just started the peptides. I know that you're doing them too, right?
Love
And
them.
yeah, life changing.
All
I
women in their mid 30s and up should be doing peptides. It's.
completely agree. It's just signaling your body what your body should be doing.
Yeah.
So they're a great tool. I'm really into the wellness space in general. I work out. I can go to lunch with friends. There's all I can basically do whatever I want. I'm very blessed in that way.
Is that from like, your both of you being a two-income household now, or your husband just
No.
no, being
Yeah,
a
no, my husband, he's done really well for himself. He got sober at 30 years old with nothing.
wow.
And yeah, I mean, in the last 18 years, he has built something that he should be really proud of. So he's a really hard worker and he's the kind of man that wants to be the provider.
Yeah. And
And
so
he's happy that I'm doing this now, but he would never necessarily want me to be working. He wants me to do what I want to do, which
yes,
is how blessed.
he sounds really, really supportive, and I think that's the big key, finding your person. And it's very rare, in
Hmm.
anyone to find that person, and somebody, and for you actually to be able to recognize that he was your person in when you were going through all that too, and not push him away. That's an amazing achievement on your side, because most people lose everything in that time because they become so selfish, I suppose. It's always about you and not them.
Hmm. Oh yeah, selfish. Yes, you're right.
But what is it you see for yourself now? Like your midlife reinvention, your identity shift from who you were before to this new sort of best version of yourself. What is it you want now to achieve? Like, because as I said, you're teaching people to create a better life through sobriety, and saying, look, I've done it, you can do it too. But you've also embraced this healthy lifestyle. But, is there a point that you could ever see, like, you could go backwards, or what is it that is pushing you forwards now? What is the main driver, the business that you want to do now?
Yeah, I think that my primary purpose for my social media is the recovery stuff. Like that's my bread and butter. That's what I really love to talk about. That's what gives me the fulfillment when I have people messaging me saying, that video helped me so much, you have no idea, right? Like, that is why I do it. I also love fashion. I love skincare. I love all the anti-aging stuff, like we've talked about. So, I'm sharing other things that I really love too. So it's not constantly sobriety all the time, but it's definitely rooted in that. And I want to make sure it stays rooted in that.
I think a lot of women lose themselves throughout, and I think your story, even without the alcohol and the drugs, I think what it shows is the resilience, right? And being able to build a beautiful life regardless. And I think a lot of women give up hope when they hit rock bottom. What advice would you give for those women? Because you are a poster child of hitting rock bottom, but actually living your best life right now.
Yeah, and it's so hard to see when you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say to them is that over all of this time where I've been in recovery or out of recovery and back in recovery, is that it truly is not about how many times you get knocked down. It is about how many times you get back up. You get back up that last time and you could have your dream life ahead of you. It is possible. And it's possible for anybody. I really believe that if you do the work, anybody can get sober.
Do you think it was because you had him by your side, or you could have done it on your own anyway?
No, I know I could have done it on my own because I did it when I achieved that chunk of sobriety.
Oh, yeah.
I got sober on my own.
Because there's a lot of women out there that sort of equate their happiness to finding the right man and finding their person. And, I've always said, unfortunately, you have to get happy on your own first. You have to be comfortable being alone. And a lot of women aren't. How did you fill that emptiness? And, when you, with the added shame, right? A lot of people, you have it from alcohol and drugs. People feel shame from losing relationships, shame from losing marriage. How do you lose that sense of shame and gain the confidence? I've just interviewed a 56-year-old woman who I found on TikTok too, weirdly. And, oh,
Yeah.
you saw it. Yeah, she had no money, no job, no nothing when she got left. And she is thriving at 56 right now, thriving, living her best life with a gorgeous
Mhm.
man. Like, what do you think it is that some women are able just to, like, you know, look at me. I married a 24-year-old and had been sued for 8 years and didn't have anything left. And I'm living a better life than I've ever lived.
Yeah, your story is pretty awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. What do you think that it is? Because look at the three of us. Look at Sue, you, and me. We're completely different, right? But we've all kind of survived the same thing in a way. How do you overcome? But when you're in the midst of alcohol and drugs, and then you have these high highs and these terrible, terrible lows, right? And
Mhm.
how do you wake up and go, I can do this? Because a lot of people self-medicate, forget the kind of drugs you were taking. They're taking, uppers, downers, things to sleep. So you're kind of foggy and you're not yourself. Like, how do you pull yourself out of that when you don't have the partner to pull you?
So I think that this is such a good topic to talk about because I think it's like the biggest misconception known to the humankind that somehow the outside is going to dictate how we feel on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so backwards and it's the biggest lie that we all chase. We chase it into the gates of hell. I mean, we really do.
I think I saw you do a video about like exactly that. Like everyone says you have all the toys, you have the beautiful house, the beautiful life, the beautiful husband, but
Yeah. And I was able to learn that the truth, which is that it's actually the opposite, firsthand through my own experience because the happiest I ever was in my life was when I had no money. I was living in a sober house in North Miami Beach that had a concrete floor, like not even a carpet. I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee that was like 10 years old and had dents on every single side of it. And I was free and I was happy and I was whole and I was connected. And I'll probably cry talking about this. And it was the best time. And then on the flip side, I have this life that's seemingly perfect. I have everything anyone could ever want. And I'm empty. I'm empty to the point where I don't know if I want to live, you know? So I've had those experiences. I've felt them both firsthand. And it's just not a secret that the work is on the inside.
So what was it about the freedom of the, living in that time that you felt was so much more, I mean, even now, the way you describe it, freeing than where you are. I always say that we build a golden cage for ourselves,
That's true.
and the most expensive thing you can have is freedom of choice, freedom of this, but you seem to have all that. So what do you mean by, what was it that was so different back then?
Well, I do think that the simplicity of my life at that point probably helps, right? But I think that I was living in such a way where I was very focused spiritually. I was living, I was in the world, but not of the world, as they say. And I was so connected to God and just doing whatever He wanted me to do at that point. And when you do that and you don't live for self all the time, there's an element of freedom there. It truly is. And at that time, I didn't have kids. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have anything. So my time wasn't taken by anybody else. So I lived solely for that purpose. And I was helping a lot of women get sober themselves at that point because I had gotten to the other side. And I think that, just service, being in service to other people really, really, it propels you into a state of happiness. It just happens naturally when you
I,
make it not about yourself.
I always say, be careful what you wish for. You might well just get it.
Yeah.
In life, like we always think that we want more and more and more. But so I always say that more money, more problems, because it just, your life gets bigger, and you have to make a conscious decision on what it is that feeds your soul. Have you always been this religious, spiritual?
Yeah, I'm not really religious. I mean, whatever. I love it all, so I'll go to any church anytime. But I think that I'm just really open spiritually, and I think I have. I'm not. I don't want to say psychic because I'm not. I don't have those abilities, but I do think that I'm like more spiritually connected naturally than some people are, and I think I was always a natural born seeker, which is probably what led me down those paths of destruction because that's seeking too. You're just looking in the wrong places. But I think I've always been a seeker, but yeah, I didn't grow up with any sort of like religious background or parents that are religious or anything like that. It's just something I've really taken an interest in. I like studying that stuff. I like reading it, reading about it. And
I Yeah.
it's helped me live my life and navigate this life that is hard. Life is hard. Even if you have a perfect life, it's still hard emotionally. So I think that spirituality is a great tool.
What do you think were the key aspects that have really, you know, you found yourself on Instagram? You've obviously built up this following now, and people sort of are gravitating towards you, obviously. I mean, again, I gravitated towards you. I couldn't even tell you why. Same with Sue. I just found you, and I like the way you talk. I like your honesty. And I think a lot of people have, you speak in a way that it doesn't make it attractive, as well as, some bits are good, some bits are bad, but you do show the ugly, and you're very raw with it. And I think a lot of people aren't prepared to do that on social media. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's probably helped because you look so cute that it's like you can't, you're the American sort of like picture of this gorgeous little blonde thing that you can't really think would do all these awful things back then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's, people will listen to you, I think, and
Mhm.
I feel like, you know, what happened? Like you just put up the page and it just started, people started coming.
Yeah, it's actually, I have an exact moment where like this all came together. And I've always had, I've always loved public speaking. I love public speaking. The more people in the audience, the better. Um, I mean, this sounds weird, but like I'm our family's like designated eulogy person. Like I have to do it every single time.
To,
But I don't even mind because I love public speaking so much. I'm such a weirdo. Um, but so I've always loved it. I'm active in AA. So one summer I was in the Hamptons, and not one summer, it was last summer. I was in the Hamptons and I was at an AA meeting and I raised my hand and I shared. I shared most times I went. And after the meeting, this woman came up to me and she goes, I could listen to you talk all day. And it was like, in that moment, it was like, I understand the assignment. Like, I need to figure out a way to use my voice. And it's not like I have some big career that I've been working towards something. Where else, it only made sense to turn to social media. It's free. I can test it, see how it goes. No one's hiring me to do a keynote speaking engagement next week. I mean, hopefully they will at some point. But my point is I didn't have all this
platform.
documented professional experience doing it. It's just my core competency.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's really, it comes naturally. I mean, is your husband incredibly proud of you? Does he love this new you, that this one that is doing all this on social media? Because some husbands can't bear it.
Yeah, he's really private. Like he is naturally a really private person. And I'm naturally very open. So at first I think he was kind of like, I think it made him nervous, but God love him. He just supported me, because he knew that it would be good for me. And now he's really proud. Yeah. Every day he's telling me how many followers I have. Like, I
No.
don't even know, but he knows.
So do you feel that this has been a big part of your like ongoing sobriety, and like what's next for you? This is your calling. Like if you could see the future, what is it for you now? This is, you want to be public speaking, you want to do this in AA meetings, you want to start something for women, going through sobriety, because I feel like this is just the beginning for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been practically no time. I mean, it's been like 4 months since I started. And yeah, I definitely am gonna stick with it and do the best I can with it. It's like I said, it's fulfilling. All my kids are in school full time now. And I am not someone that can just like go shopping and go to lunch every day. Like I can't.
Do you worry about the other mothers seeing all this where you live, or they know already and who cares?
Yeah, I know that they've all seen it, and I'm sure there's a lot of whispering going on. But the thing is, like, when you feel like the purpose is bigger, that little noise, like, it's really freed me from that, caring what people think. Because you can't, you just have to do you.
You just
When
have
you're
to do you.
a public facing person, like you are me times 100. Like, you know exactly what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Look, I mean, to get anywhere in life, you need to get comfortable with embarrassment, and I think that's something you've learned pretty early on, because if you can rationalize, the world's worst hangover, you can rationalize this, right? So it's like,
Yeah,
it's true. We've all woken up going, fuck, fuck, fuck. What did I do last night? You've done it on a
totally.
grander scale.
Yeah.
But, the good thing is, I always say, keep your humor, right? And I think that's what comes through your social media too. You keep your humor, you keep going on. You can't let other people's noise contain you. And I think that's a very, very strong positive sign from you as well, because being in a small town or a smaller town where everybody knows everybody else's business, most people don't have the guts to talk.
No, definitely not. Yeah, a lot of the feedback has been like, you're so brave,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and they want to fit in, not stand out, and that's what I've
Yeah.
seen. So, I really respect this as a part of your journey. And, I'm excited to see what's next for you, because this is something that more people should do and, know about. And I think coming from somebody like you, as I said, with such a beautiful home and family, I just think when you look at you, you don't think addict, ex-heroin addict, right?
No,
And I think that's a very, very powerful message.
I do too. And I think that the temperature has really changed out there in regards to addiction and alcoholism, and so many more people are coming out. And I
Hmm.
think that that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Tell everybody, Julia, how they can find you, like how they can follow you, where you are on socials, so that all the people out there that maybe want to reach out and, learn more about you can.
Yeah. On Instagram and TikTok, my handle is the Juliet Social, and it's spelled Juliet, the Juliet Social. And my name is Juliet Warner, so you can also search me that way.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job. And honestly, as I said, it was compelling to watch. And, it's it's a journey for all of us, and we're all on it. So congratulations on continuing on yours, and thank you for listening, everyone, to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm going to hit you up when I come to Dubai.
Oh my God, you have to come. You have to come. You'll
I'm
love it.
coming.
I know,
I
I
know.
know. I'm coming to LA, but thank you. You've done an amazing job, and I know, like, I have a lot of friends that have been through certain things, and just coming out the other side and being, even just having the zest for life that you do, and not victimize
Mm,
yourself, is a massive, massive, massive thing.
Thank you. I
Pleasure.
really appreciate it. And it's been great. Thank you so much.